You don't have to pretend to be strong. What you truly need is a mind so steady that nothing can shake it. No criticism can throw you off balance, no failure can make you panic, and no temptation can pull you off your path. Imagine this: when you possess such strength, your presence alone speaks volumes. You don't need to say a word. Your calm, steady aura will make people feel the pressure. That is true power. And this kind of strength is nothing new. It has been forged for over 2,000 years by warriors, emperors, and those who survived the chaos of their eras, all thanks to one thing: Stoicism. Stoicism is not just a philosophy to admire. It's a battle-tested toolkit for those who want to master their lives. It teaches us how to control emotions, build discipline, see things clearly, and become immune to manipulation and pain. If you're tired of the chaos, if you desire to become unshakable, then watch this video until the end. Stoicism might be exactly what you've been seeking all along. Part 1. Growth comes with loneliness. Do you wish to have a mind so powerful that it makes others uneasy? If yes, brace yourself, because the first thing you'll encounter is not joy. It's a loneliness so intense it might take your breath away, not because you've done something wrong, but because for the first time you are doing what is right for yourself. You stop participating in meaningless social games. You no longer pretend to enjoy shallow gatherings. You start questioning things you once blindly accepted. And from that moment on, you become different. The world won't like it. The clearer your vision, the more uncomfortable it makes others. When you quit smoking, they feel judged. When you stay silent while they gossip, they call you distant. But the truth is, you're not doing anything to them. You've simply stopped wanting to be like them. Ask yourself honestly, are you tired of acting, exhausted from pretending to care about things that don't touch your soul? Worn out from smiling when you feel empty inside? You are not cold. You are just done playing the background role in someone else's emotional drama. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "To live a good life, we have the potential for it, if we can learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference." A good life is not measured by how many people surround you, but by how free you are from meaningless things. And now, you must face the hardest challenge of all: learning how to walk alone without losing your way. No one teaches you this. There is no manual for staying awake while the rest of the world sleeps. But here's the truth. A strong mind isn't forged by applause, but in those quiet moments when no one understands you, and yet you refuse to break. Picture this. You are sitting in a dimly lit room. No phone, no voices, no distractions. Just you and your rawest thoughts. Can you handle that silence? Or will you scramble to escape, to drown it out with noise? Because if you can't sit alone with yourself, you will always be hostage to the crowd. And if you always need the crowd to feel whole, you'll never be strong enough to become who you truly are. Emily Dickinson lived in silence, yet her words echo through centuries. Nikola Tesla spent much of his life in isolation, yet his ideas shaped the modern world. They did not blend in, they stepped away. And in that solitude, they found razor-sharp clarity. So, are you ready to pay that price? Tonight, turn everything off. Lock your door. Sit in silence and ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What questions am I afraid to ask myself? Why do I need so many people to feel valuable? The answers won't come right away. But in that space, something stronger will start to grow within you. Loneliness is not punishment. It is the place where reconstruction begins. It is the battlefield where your mind learns not to break. Once you can stand in silence without withering, everything else, judgment, rejection, failure, becomes just background noise. And when you rise from that silence with a mind that cannot be shaken, the world will see you differently. Not with admiration, but with caution, because they will know you are no longer dependent, no longer easy to manipulate, and a mind like that makes people uncomfortable. Are you ready? Because the next lesson is even harder. When you change, the same people who once applauded you may be the first to walk away. And when they do, you must stand tall. When you begin to change, don't be surprised if your transformation makes others uncomfortable. In the previous part, we learned that becoming strong, calm, and independent isn't always easy. But perhaps even harder is accepting that your growth may actually pose a threat to those around you. You don't need to do anything dramatic. Just think a little differently, speak more mindfully, decline meaningless hangouts, or share deeper perspectives. And that alone is enough to make people uneasy. Not because you're wrong, but because your growth, even when subtle, acts as a mirror reflecting their own stagnation. And instinctively, people don't like facing mirrors that reveal truths they'd rather avoid. You may have felt this before. When you start reading more, trying minimalism, or stop complaining and begin taking responsibility instead of support, you receive sarcastic remarks like, "Oh, getting too deep for us, huh? Since when did you become all philosophical?" Or worse, silence and disinterest when you share something meaningful. It's not that you're wrong, you've simply forced them to face themselves. True growth is quiet, yet powerful. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. The light says nothing, yet suddenly everything becomes visible. To those who've grown comfortable in the dark, that light feels harsh. The same goes for society. In psychology, there's a term for this: groupthink, the mechanism that keeps everyone aligned on the surface for the sake of comfort. So when one person stops complaining and starts seeking solutions, they are labeled as weird, distant, or even troublesome. Not because they are wrong, but because they disrupt the old order. All evolution by nature threatens what no longer serves us. Ever wonder why Socrates was sentenced to death? It wasn't because he corrupted the youth of Athens, as claimed. It was because he forced society to face its delusions and blind beliefs. Or Malcolm X, when he shifted his message from black nationalism to a broader human vision. He wasn't just hated by the system, but seen as a traitor by his own supporters. Sometimes growth makes you a threat to your old tribe. So here's the real question. Have you ever held back your growth just to keep others comfortable? How many times have you shrunk yourself just to maintain someone else's approval? Here's a truth people rarely tell you: the ones you strive to please today may be the first to abandon you tomorrow. But the inner strength you build, even if it feels lonely, is what will ultimately save you. Don't hold back just because others aren't ready to move forward. No one grows without leaving shadows behind. And if you're feeling lonely, on this path, remember Marcus Aurelius's words: the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. So, what should you do when others are uncomfortable with your growth? Simple. Don't over-explain. Don't beg for understanding. Stay silent and move forward. True change doesn't need validation. It shows in your results and your inner peace. Here's a small practice. Write down 3 things you are changing and 3 negative reactions you've received. Then ask yourself, if I return to who I used to be, would I respect myself more? The answer is usually obvious. A strong mind doesn't avoid resistance. It moves forward despite it. Not everyone is ready for what's new. But if you are, stop asking for permission. Just move. If this resonates with you, share one change you're making in the comments. Sometimes one voice is all it takes to inspire others to be real. And don't forget, if you're ready to build an unshakable mind, hit subscribe. The road ahead is long, but every step will be worth it. Because up next is an even harder truth. When you change, those who once applauded you may be the first to walk away. Be ready. When you step away from your comfort zone and begin to change, you won't just make others uncomfortable. You will face an even greater challenge yourself, daring to live authentically without needing approval. Not everyone who is strong waits for approval before taking action. True strength belongs to those who have left behind the land of acceptable to step into the territory of authentic, where only their true values remain. Ask yourself, how many times have you stopped doing something because you feared others wouldn't care? How often have you censored yourself to avoid judgment? The real question isn't how often you do this, whose life are you really living? When your need for recognition controls your behavior, you are no longer in charge. Instead, you become a puppet dressed up as an independent thinker. Stoic philosophy teaches us, if you wish to improve, be content to appear foolish and stupid. Growth demands the courage to seem wrong. That's the price of freedom. The less you need approval, the freer you are to do what's right. But society resists this. Why? Because when you prove it's possible to stand alone, others are forced to face the truth that they are not. Mediocrity doesn't need weapons. It only needs consensus, i.e. pitying glances, practical advice, subtle mockery, all designed to pull you back down. Not because people hate you, but because your confidence makes them feel small. Philosophy calls this slave morality, where the weak reframe their failure as virtue. When you're strong, they call you cold. When you're independent, they say you're selfish. But you weren't born to please everyone. Look at history. Galileo was condemned for stating the Earth revolves around the sun, a truth that lacked popular approval. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, forcing America to face its racial injustice. Real power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to flinch when the world shakes. Here's a simple challenge to test yourself. Go eat alone at your regular spot. No phone, no headphones, no pretending to be busy. Just sit. That creeping discomfort isn't loneliness. It's the fear of being seen as lonely. But push past it and you'll taste true freedom. The kind that comes when you no longer care how others see you. Ask yourself this. If you posted nothing and told no one, would your work still feel meaningful? If the answer is no, you may be performing life instead of living it. Like a farmer planting for likes instead of fruit, you may have been off track longer than you realized. The Bible says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You don't need to fight the world, just have the courage to live differently. And it all starts with letting go of applause. When you define your own values, stop borrowing morals from the crowd and stop asking for permission. Your every action answers only one question. Does this make me a better version of myself? When you can stand tall without leaning on praise, you're not just strong, you are truly free. And the journey to become your strongest self continues in the next part, where you will learn how to completely own your life. Stay tuned. When you truly begin to take charge of your own life, a bitter truth starts to emerge. Freedom isn't always comforting. Sometimes, freedom itself becomes the heaviest burden. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? How can something we crave so deeply, freedom, turn into a sentence? But that's the harsh reality. When you no longer blame fate, God, or life's instruction manuals, every decision falls entirely on your shoulders. There's no one left to hold accountable. Not your parents, not society, not your circumstances. You are the author of your story now, and if the ending disappoints you, complaining won't help. Does that feel heavy? Good, it should, because that's the price of real freedom. Yet, if you have the courage to bear it, you will become the kind of person who unsettles others. They won't be able to lure you with rewards, they won't scare you with threats of loss, they won't control you through fear, and that makes them uncomfortable. So where do you start? Start by dropping the excuses. Excuses like, I'm this way because of my childhood, because of society, or because they don't understand me. No, you're not that way. You chose to be, and you can choose to be different, but only if you are honest enough to erase the entire list of reasons you've been hiding behind. Here's a simple exercise most people ignore. Before you sleep, don't ask, who drained me today? Instead, ask, what responsibility did I avoid today? Write it down. Not to beat yourself up, but so you can take a different action tomorrow. One small, consistent decision can change your life's entire direction. A strong mind isn't one that knows everything. It's a mind that takes responsibility, even for the unknown. If you're still with me, pause for 3 seconds right now. Yes, just stop. Breathe deeply. Look around. What do you see? You've just proved something powerful. You can control your actions even while watching a video. That's strength, and if you've made it this far, hit that like button. Not for me, but as a personal pledge. A pledge to stop living like a victim and start steering your own ship. Because this journey isn't over. In fact, the next part is even harder. We are about to dive into a painful truth, one that reveals the key to forging an unshakable mind. Prepare yourself. What comes next is about facing pain, head on. Before you can become unshakable, you must first face the hardest thing of all, your own pain. In the previous part, we talked about taking full responsibility for your life. Now, a more direct question arises. How many times have you backed down just to avoid getting hurt? How many big moments in your life have been buried under the fear of feeling too much? Let's be honest, who hasn't done this before? But running away doesn't make the pain disappear. On the contrary, it only grows quietly, becoming heavier and heavier. To build a strong mind, you must face it. No excuses, no running. So, how do you begin? Here's a simple yet powerful method. Choose your most painful memory. Then rewrite that story, but not from the perspective of someone trapped in suffering. Instead, write it from the viewpoint of someone who has already overcome it. Write as if you're looking back from the other side, stronger and wiser. Because when the story changes, so does your mind. The truth is, a strong mind is not something you're born with. It is shaped by every failure, every loss, every painful moment. While others hesitate, you move forward. While others complain, you learn. While others fall, you grow. And at that point, you will begin to become someone others fear. Not because you don't feel pain, but because you don't break. When you turn pain into your weapon, you are ready for the next lesson. Prepare for the worst. Don't get it wrong, this doesn't mean living in fear. It means never being crushed by surprise. Truly strong people are not blindly optimistic, they are realistic. They know everything can happen, even the worst, and they are ready. Look around. The person who unsettles others the most isn't the one shouting or complaining. It's the one sitting calmly in the chaos, face unchanged. That's not coldness, that's stoicism at its peak. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The wise man sees in the misfortune of others what he should avoid." Wise people don't wait for disasters to happen to learn how to face them. They prepare in advance. They ask the uncomfortable questions others avoid. What if someone I love dies unexpectedly? What if I lose my job tomorrow? What if I am betrayed by the person I trust most? Not to torture themselves, but to bulletproof their minds. Even top investors like Howard Marks admit, risk is what's left when you think you've thought of everything. So ask yourself, when was the last time you imagined the worst-case scenario? Or the last time you broke down because you never thought something could happen? Here's a practical exercise. Every week, choose one area of your life: work, health, love, or finances. Write down in detail the worst realistic thing that could happen. Then, write how you would face it. What's your backup plan? Who would you
lean on if your heartbeat stays calm afterward? Congratulations, you're getting closer to being unshakable. This is real strength.
People don't fear you because you're rich or smart. They fear your calmness. They fear watching you face loss and not collapse. They fear your preparation for things they don't even dare to imagine. Think of Mike Tyson. He walked into the ring without trash talk, with a cold and blank face. He had already won the fight in his mind. Preparing for the worst doesn't make you cold. It makes you immune to paralysis. Now ask yourself, if you lost everything, your reputation, money, and relationships, what would remain inside?
You, a strong mind, doesn't need to roar like a lion. It only needs to stand still, unmoved, as the world trembles around it.
And that silence alone is enough to make the whole room go quiet. Once you learn to welcome the worst, the next step will come naturally. Not everything deserves your reaction. And sometimes true power is found in stillness. Stay tuned, because the next lesson will take you even deeper into a subtler and more profound kind of strength. In the previous section, we explored the strength of preparing for the worst. Now, an even deeper lesson awaits. The art of non-reaction, a supreme skill that keeps your mind steady even when the world turns chaotic. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you lost control over things that were never yours to command? What others say, how they treat you, how strangers behave, or the outcomes of random events. None of these are within your grasp. Yet we often react fiercely, believing that anger or arguing might give us back some sense of control. But the truth is clear. When you react impulsively, you surrender your mind to others. A snide comment, a mocking look. That's all it takes to steal your peace. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." This is the essence of non-reaction. You don't have to win every argument. You don't need the last word to prove your worth. The true victor is the one who can walk away without needing to defeat anyone. Let's consider a story that might sound familiar. Andrew, a high school teacher, wasn't wealthy or powerful, but he was deeply respected for his unshakable presence. One day, furious parents stormed into the school, publicly accusing him of unfair treatment. They yelled, demanded his dismissal, and humiliated him in front of his students and peers. And what did Andrew do? He didn't react. He listened calmly, waited for them to exhaust themselves, and then quietly said, "I understand your concerns. I will report this to the principal as per protocol." He offered no excuses, no counterattacks. His composure spoke volumes. The school leadership stood by him, not because he fought back, but because his stillness reflected the parents' overreaction right back at them. This is the shift. Non-reaction is not weakness or tolerance. It is the quiet power of stability. Like a building that doesn't sway during a mild earthquake, people trust what stands firm. You can practice this too, starting small. A pointless online argument. Someone cutting in line, a rude remark in passing. Don't respond, just observe. Let your silence be a mirror so others can hear their own noise. Remember this, when you react the way others expect, they control you. Reactivity feels righteous, as if you're defending truth, honor, or justice. But often, you're just being led into a game you didn't choose to play. A strong mind doesn't win debates. It doesn't need them. It knows its worth isn't up for discussion. Ask yourself, if I don't respond, do I lose anything? Or do I actually gain everything? When you stop reacting, you begin living by your own standards. No one can manipulate you with words, glances, or silence. You become steady. And in that steadiness, people will notice, not because you are threatening, but because you do not waver. If you're ready to become the person whose calm makes others pause, remember this simple truth: silence is power. Live like nothing can pull you out of yourself. That's how you earn both respect and quiet fear without ever raising your voice. Next, we will dive even deeper into the sharpest weapon of all: critical thinking, the ultimate tool that separates the truly powerful from the easily swayed. Stay tuned. In the previous part, we talked about silence, the ultimate strength that helps you stay grounded amidst life's chaos. But there's something even deeper than silence. That is critical thinking, the sharpest weapon that shields you from being manipulated by the world. This battle isn't loud, it happens quietly, between your habitual self and your awakened self. Victory here isn't measured by how many people agree with you, but by the quiet clarity that emerges each time you refuse to accept unexamined opinions. You don't need to control the world. You only need to control how you perceive and respond to it. But to do that, you must learn to rethink, to think deeper, and to think differently. So when someone says, "Everyone does this," you need to pause and ask, who exactly is everyone? And why should I be like them? When headlines flood in, don't react right away. Instead, ask, what's missing here? Not to be rebellious, but to create enough space in your mind for the truth, before emotions and noise hijack your clarity. Ironically, we live in the information age, yet most of us have never been taught how to truly think. We consume knowledge like fast food, quick, easy, and mostly undigested. Is it any wonder why so many people feel anxious, drained, and lost? A strong mind doesn't just hold facts, it knows when to question. Whenever someone's words hurt you, pause and ask, why did that upset me? What fear did it touch? Whenever you get angry, ask yourself, am I defending truth or just protecting my ego? The moment you start questioning instead of reacting, you become untouchable. No one can control you anymore, and practicing this doesn't have to be complicated. Each day, choose one belief you've always held about yourself, others, or the world. Put it under the microscope and ask, when was the last time I truly changed my mind or admitted I was wrong? If you can't remember, ask yourself, am I really living? Or just replaying outdated scripts? In every conversation, instead of just waiting for your turn to speak, try truly listening. Listening not to argue, but to understand what's driving the other person's point. It's difficult, painfully difficult, because it requires you to set aside your ego and face the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. A powerful mind doesn't need to win every debate. It picks its battles wisely, conserving energy for what truly matters. Strength isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing what's not worth believing, not worth reacting to, and not worth holding on to. Ask yourself, how much of what I believe is truly mine, and how much has been programmed into me? You may not control your circumstances, but you can always control how you interpret them. Critical thinking doesn't make you stubborn, it makes you unmanipulable.
You become someone who isn't easily persuaded or triggered. Someone others don't know how to manipulate, and that unsettles them. You don't need to shout to show your strength. Just think deeply enough and your words alone will make
others fall silent, and it all starts today with a simple question: have I really thought this through? We've just explored 8 powerful principles for building a mind so resilient the world can't help but take notice. No shouting, no proving. Sometimes silent strength speaks the loudest, making others feel small, without saying a single word. This power comes from a private journey. A journey where you stop living for approval and start living for what's right. Where you realize no one is coming to save you. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. Where you finally stop running from loneliness and face yourself honestly. A formidable mind doesn't dominate others. It simply refuses to be controlled. It chooses what to think, when to stay silent, and how to act with true intention. In a reactive world, the rare few who pause to think stand out. That rarity, that's true power. If this video spoke to you, hit that like button now. Share in the comments what part made you stop and think. And if you know someone who needs this, pass it on. If you're ready to keep building an unshakable mind, don't forget to subscribe. This journey is far from over and every step is worth it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. You've just completed another step in the journey toward an unshakable mind. You didn't just hear about Stoicism. You felt its power. In a world where people are easily swept away by emotions and impulsive reactions, you chose a different path. You chose to pause, to think, and to act with intention. Remember, silence is not weakness. Calmness is not avoidance. They are the very foundation of a mind that nothing can disturb. And if you're ready to go even deeper, hit subscribe right now. Not just to follow the channel, but to truly join the journey of becoming the strongest version of yourself. Click subscribe so you won't miss our next videos. I also want to hear your story. Which part of today's video made you pause and reflect the most? Share in the comments below, because your insights might just inspire someone else on their journey. Finally, share this video with someone you care about. Someone who might be searching for themselves right now, or simply needs a gentle reminder that you are stronger than you think. See you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring deeper ways to live wisely, intentionally, and powerfully.